Hey there, everyone. Welcome to You Are the Spell. I am Aunt Carla, and I am excited about this new format. Before, I had been doing You Are the Spell as an audio only or primarily format, and then I was doing some kind of then I was doing like cosmic weather report on YouTube. But this year, I keep saying this, my goal or my mantra is to work less and to like kind of repurpose more. So it makes sense to combine these different things that I have going on and just do it through YouTube and then share my favorite bits on Instagram and YouTube Shorts and TikTok and all those other things. So we're going to start here. And I want to start by talking about spring is here. We just had the spring equinox. We had our Aries new moon solar eclipse. So there's a lot of cool things happening in my own yard. They're filled with dandelions. And yesterday, the landscapers came back, where we live, the landlord has the landscapers come, and they had, I guess, their the first visits of the season where they're like mowing the lawn and kind of cleaning up the old stuff. And dandelions have already started growing. And I was like, oh my God, dandelions, that's so great. And they came and mowed the lawn, and there was still some left. I'm like, well, they'll be back tomorrow. And if you know, like, Jupiter is one of my planetary favorites that I work with. So when I do Jupiter altars, I will often get dandelions from my yard. Now, dandelions, as many people think of, especially if you have a yard and a lawn that you're trying to maintain, you're like, oh, they're weeds. But the thing is, think about how often they pop up. They often pop up like that because they are abundance. So for dandelions, their magical significance is abundance. So if you think of them not in terms of weeds, but in terms of abundance and how they're always popping up and how they are sacred to Jupiter, which is the planet or the deity of wealth and expansion and success, you can have a bit of a reframe. So next time you see some dandelions, think about that. So now we are in Aries season, and it's a new astrological season. So what I'm doing now in my intention for returning to the You Are the Spell podcast is I'm going to do a series for your Spellcraft Blueprint. And I have a course called Your Spellcraft Blueprint, which I have updated. But in the meantime, I've also created a free ebook called Your Pathways to Power, which is the art of magic and manifestation. And I'm really excited about that. So if you want to learn a little bit more about that, about how to tap into your personal spellcraft blueprint, you will love that ebook. But also, if you pay attention to this series, which I guess will be about 6 episodes or so, you will get a feel for how to tap into your own spellcraft blueprint, because every witch is different. Every spiritual practitioner is different. We all have our different ways of creating spells, and perhaps you're new to magic. You might want to learn some things, and even if you are intermediate, you're going to learn some things. So I'm very excited about that. Oh, and before I get too far, before I get started into that, you might also know that Empress Shoshana and I will be doing some new live podcasts. We haven't done Witchy and Woo, our shared podcast, in a while, and we have so much fun when we get together and do it. So she suggested that we do Witchy and Woo. Well, actually, she said we should do some live streams because we have some things coming up, and this will be a great opportunity for us to just go live on Instagram and then post our stuff, and then to chat like we usually do because we have so much fun, and then we can share our content somewhere else if we want. And I thought, well, since it's you and me, why don't we just call it Witchy and Woo Live? And then I'll take that audio, and then we'll also be able to update Witchy and Woo podcast for those of you who love witchy and woo, but also this time there will be that video element as well. Okay, so let's get into your Spellcraft Blueprint. Now, wherever you are in your spiritual journey, in your witchy journey, at some point you will be creating spells or rituals or just ways to get grounded. And no witch does it the same way. No spiritual practitioner does it the same way. Everyone has their own style. And when you find your own special way of doing things, that's when it becomes meaningful. That's when it becomes powerful. When you were first starting to learn magic or hear about it, you might have bought a book or gone to a library and you might have seen a spell and you're like, oh, okay, that's what I'll do. And you're just starting out. And when you're starting out, of course, it's totally fine to read books. But the more you do and the more you grow and the more you learn, you start experimenting with different things. You start learning how certain herbs and spices work better for you, or some that maybe don't work as well, or maybe you prefer to use a particular element, or you might like to have a certain kind of way that you speak or pray over your magic, or maybe you have particular magical traditions from your family or your upbringing or other teachings that you have learned over the years. Or even if you started in one way, like for me, for example, hoodoo is my background. Like when I first started, I was just doing candles. But then as I have traveled more and explored other magical practices, I've incorporated so much more. And I have found what works for me. So you could call that being eclectic, and that's fine. But the main thing is you find what works for you and you continue to do it. And perhaps you learn some new things. So our purpose, the purpose behind your Spellcraft Blueprint, these series of podcasts, or also my course, is to discover what your Spellcraft Blueprint, to discover what you like, discover what it is that makes your magic powerful, to discover what is it that makes you powerful. So later on, we'll be also talking about things like how your body is a magic wand, and how some people will be using their clairvoyant, clairaudient, claircognizant, all of these different things. So there's no one else who does magic like you. So this is a celebration and an exploration of all the different ways that you can create magic that is so powerful because you create it. And as I like to say, this is how you create the spells that only you can create. So let's get started. So when it comes to making magic or creating spells, I often like to ask people, do you do any pre-planning, any preparation? And I did a poll on Instagram last week in my stories, and I said, oh, do you do any kind of divination, for example? Do you do any divination before you do a spell? And and the question was yes, no, sometimes. And I got, mostly it was sometimes. Some people said yes, some people said no, but a lot of people said sometimes. And I'm not here to judge any of those things. I was just really curious. I just wanted to know. And someone had responded to me and she said, I just be wanting to light a candle. And I'm like, I feel that. I totally feel that. There's times when you're like, I know what I want. I don't need to do any kind of divination because I want what I want. And I understand that. And see, the whole point about, if we're talking about divination, it comes down to getting into alignment with your intention. All spells begin with intention, right? We need to know what it is that we want. And if you're going to go to the trouble to creating any kind of spell or ritual, you want to make sure that you are clear, you are crystal clear on your intention. But the second part is you want to make sure that you are in alignment with that intention. So if you are saying that, okay, I want to lose weight, if you want to lose weight, what are your actions doing that are in alignment? If you're saying, I want to lose weight, but you're on social media posting these high carb, recipe videos, that's not in alignment. So that's how you know, there's a disconnect there. So what we do needs to be in alignment with what we say. And I feel that preparation can be very, very helpful. So you already know what your intention is. You set your intention, but then you need to get into alignment with it. So there's different things that you can do. So divination is one way. And as I said, you don't have to, but it can be really helpful. So for example, if you're saying, okay, I need to make money, I need to raise money for my rent, I need this now, I'm very clear about that. There you go. I totally understand that. However, have you realized that if you were to do divination, divination might give you a clue on where that money might come from. It might give you a clue where you should look or who you should ask or what kind of idea. Maybe you need to create some kind of product or sell something. A divination set, just pulling some cards might give you some more information. Another example I like to use is, let's say you're trying to have you want to attract love, and you're saying, I want to attract this specific person right here. Okay, no judgment there, but we know this is done. If you do a divination, you do a reading, you might discover that the person that you want might actually be married or living with someone. And that might save you some time. That might save you a spell. That might save you a candle and all the ingredients that go with that. So consider that. So you do not have to do any kind of divination, but I'm saying that it's really good. It's a good way to raise your energy and get into alignment. Now, another way, when we are talking about raising our energy and getting into alignment, what does your altar look like? Do you have a creative space? Do you have an altar space? What does your altar space look like? Do you have some kind of place to do your magic? And if you don't, that's, we can totally work around that. But sometimes it can be good if it's especially something that you are working towards. It might be time to refresh your altar if you already have one. And I recommend that you reset the energy around your altar at least once a season. So that means taking everything off and cleaning. Maybe you have some Florida water and just like cleaning the surfaces. If you're using some kind of altar cloth, it's time to get that baby washed. Freshen up with some new candles. Once a season, that's really all you need. But do you have a creative space? But you know what? I say creative space, but this is what we're doing. We are creating with our altar. The altar is the place that we go to create. We're creating by using supernatural forces, but we are creating all the same. So if you do not have a specific place that is kind of set for your spiritual work, I recommend that you have one. But if you do not have the privacy or privacy is a big deal, actually. The privacy of the space, there are other things you can do. For example, you could have a box. Some people might have like a small box with their different items and they keep it under their bed. Or you put it somewhere where people can't find it easily. You can also do, I've seen portable altars and say like an altar, an Altoid, an Altoid 10. So they'll have something like a birthday candle, a little cone incense, maybe a picture of a deity or a sigil and some matches and maybe a small jar of herbs. It doesn't have to be that large, but something there that is easy for you to, when you have a little quiet time to yourself, or maybe you go in the bathroom, a place where you can do your magic. So first things first, What is your altar? Where is it? And what are you putting in it? What are you putting on it? What are the items that you include? Because those things also need to be meaningful. If you have an altar space where you have like room to put on it, do you have statues of different deities, or do you have statues? Do you have items? Do you have items of significance? Do you have, like, let's see, I have things and mine moves around depending on what the day is or what I'm working on. But like, this is a goddess statue. You see here, there's also, I also have skulls. Have all kinds of skulls. There's the things that kind of catch my attention, and things that seem meaningful, or they mean something to me. Like, I remember I went to Pier 1 Imports before. I had gone to Pier 1 Imports when they were closing, and I wasn't even looking for anything specifically, but I ran across a cotton ball, like a raw cotton ball, and it called to me. And I thought, this is really interesting. But I realized my family, my ancestors, were most likely picking cotton somewhere. And I ended up buying that raw ball of cotton and placing it on my ancestor altar. And that was another way that I could connect with them, realizing that it represented the work that my ancestors may have done at some point. And that also just keeps me grounded and keeps me mindful of my ancestors. So the things that you put on your altar need to only be meaningful to you. Now, meditation is another great way for getting in touch with your intention, or getting in alignment with your intention. And I've been talking a little bit anyway, about big magic. And in my Magical You group, in my Magical You coven, we do a guided meditation to meet your future you every full moon. That is part of that coven's work. And in that guided meditation, I take people on a journey to meet their future self, that future self who has manifested the thing that they want. And then in this meditation, they are able to talk to them, to communicate with their future self, and get the information, the guidance that they need in order to get what they want. So for example, if you wanted help in something that you wanted to manifest, well, there's a version of you that knows what it is, or that has already manifested it. So in this meditation, you would connect with them and you'd say, okay, how do I get to where you are? Like, you already know me, you know who I am, and you know my struggles. How did I get from here to where you are? Tell me, what is the cheat code? What do I need to know? Who do I need to see? Who do I need to talk to? That can be really helpful. So that's a guided meditation. But you can also do other kinds of meditations to think about, to imagine, what does your intention look like when it's fully realized? So meditation, and it's very mental, clearly, but it's a very powerful tool in manifestation and getting into alignment. So meditation is another tool. You might not use this, but I just want to offer you some different suggestions. So as I said, your Spellcraft Blueprint is all about, what do you use? And you might have never considered meditation before when it comes to, doing your spells. But, I'm offering you some new suggestions. So we talked about divination. We talked about, how helpful it can be to do divination before you do your spell. And if you do a reading and you're like, I don't even know what this means, or maybe I'm just too close to it, perhaps you might talk to someone else. Or what someone else said, someone said to me on IG, if I can't figure out my cards, that's when I give my pendulum a swang. And that's also very helpful. Maybe try a different divination tool. And if you're really not sure about the answers that you're receiving, maybe that's a sign to give yourself at least a day before proceeding. Because sometimes we can be too close to the thing, or we want it so much that we don't understand how our energy, our neediness will be getting in the way. Something to consider. And then finally, a spiritual bath. Spiritual bath. I personally love spiritual baths. Now, some of you might be saying, now, Aunt Carla, I just can't be taking a spiritual bath every time. I got to do something. I get that. I get that. But when it comes to things like protection, spiritual bath, like for cleansing and protection, nothing beats that. It's very, very simple ingredients. When we're talking about cleansing, rosemary, lemon, salt. That's the most basic cleansing spiritual bath that you can do. And it can be something to just kind of cleanse your aura. Now, if you are seeking to do something else, something a little more heavy duty kind of spell, then a spiritual bath can also help you be that largest ingredient. Like if you imagine that your bathtub is a cauldron, then you become that largest ingredient. So you can add different elements or different herbs and spices to your bathtub and therefore wash yourself in that energy. So around the time of the eclipse, I did a spiritual bath, but I did it for big magic. So there's things that I'm creating in my life right now, and they're just bigger. They're not just, I want to pay rent or I want to, get a new job. This is like, it's like a life change. Like there's things that I want to do and it's a pivot. So I felt for this kind of change, for this kind of what I call big magic, I had to do a spiritual bath. And what that included was me looking at all of the different things that I would need. Like, what are the different qualities that I would have to pull out of myself? What are the different changes in behavior and attitude and traits? What are the things I need to bring out in myself to make these big changes happen? And I created an herbal mixture. So I created this herb, and it had like 19 different herbs in it. And I gave it a name, and I made a bath with it. Do I still have? Yeah. So what I did was I put all of the herbs and I added some salt, put them in in this bag, and then I put them in water in my bathtub, and then I took the bath, and then by keeping it in that bag, it's like a cotton muslin bag, it kept the bathtub free from a whole bunch of like stuff floating around, because that just makes it more messy, right? So that is something. So a spiritual bath is just another way of getting into alignment with what you want. So whether it's a cleansing spiritual bath before you do a spell, or perhaps you, like me, you wanted to create a spiritual bath that helps you get into alignment, or basically cast a spell on yourself for whatever it is that you desire, you can do that too. And of course, you can also do spiritual baths for things like prosperity. You might include things like basil. A basil and salt bath can do wonders for you. So that's just something to think about. And if you're wondering about, well, I don't have a bathtub, well, I just saw on Bossy Bruja's page, she had a really great suggestion that she saw from Stella Maris, I believe. She took a jug. So she took like a water jug or milk jug, big jug, and she placed the different herbs and spices in them, all the different elements, and then filled it with water, and then went in the bathtub, and then used that jug to wash yourself down. So if you can't get in a bathtub, you can use a jug. You can put all of those different things in a jug, and you can strain them too. If you don't, again, you can strain them using like a strainer. If you're not able to, or you just don't want to make a mess. I personally like strainers and muslin bags for that purpose. So you put the stuff in the jug, and then you pour it all over your body. So that's another way to bathe yourself with that magical spiritual energy that gets you into alignment with the work that you want to do. And then, of course, you go ahead and cast your spell. So we'll be talking a lot more about that. And I think this is a good place to, I think this is a good place to round things up, I think. So when it comes to creating your spiritual, when it comes to creating your spellcraft blueprint, everything matters. Everything counts. And that includes just the beginnings. Like today we talked about the preparations. So whether it's when you're setting your intention, you're doing divination or a spiritual bath or meditation or setting up or refreshing your sacred space, those are the different things that you can do to to freshen your magic, to strengthen your magic, especially when it's something that you want. Now, granted, we're not doing spells for stuff we don't want, right? Of course. But when you add these extra elements, this is when you create, this is how you add more energy to your spell. Everything that you do, from divination to meditation to a spiritual bath to refreshing your altar space, this adds energy to your spell, and that's what makes it more powerful. So when I mention divination, for example, I'm not saying, oh, you're being lazy if you don't do it. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that the divination adds more power. It gives you more information, but it also represents more energy that you are putting into the spell. So think about that the next time, before you jump in. But if you want to jump in, we do that too. So again, no judgment. So if you want to learn more about this, you can get your Spellcraft Blueprint right now, or you can check out the free ebook, Pathways to Power. The information will be down below in the caption. And I look forward to seeing more of you over the next few weeks for this, your Spellcraft Blueprint series. So see you soon. And remember, you're magic.